In today's video, we're going to talk about time, and we're going to learn about one of the ways that we talk about this moment in time. Hi, I'm Ed from Speak English with Ed, and today we're going to talk about the present simple tense. So let's jump straight in and get on with it. The only way to learn is to talk. Present simple tense. Now, the first thing that we want to know is what are tenses? What are tenses themselves? Right, well, tenses, these are the way that we talk about time. There are three periods of time. There's now, right now, this very minute. There's the past, that's time that's already gone. We've used that time, we cannot get it back. And then there's the future, that's the time that's yet to come, that's in front of us, that we've got to come. So there's the present, the past and the future. And today we're going to concentrate on talking about the present, what's happening now. And there are two ways that we talk about the present. We talk about it in what we call the present simple, and we talk about it in what we call the present continuous. Sometimes called present progressive, but they're both exactly the same. It doesn't matter which one you hear, they're both talking about the same. So here's two sentences. I work and I'm working. I work is in the present simple and I am working is in the present continuous. Now, both of them have a subject, which is a requirement of a sentence, and both of them have a verb. Both of them have a main verb, which is the requirement of a sentence. But the present continuous also has an auxiliary verb, which is the verb to be in this case. It's the verb to be. And it also has a modified main verb because it's got ing stuck on the end of it, right? So it's I am, which is the auxiliary verb, and working, which is the modified main verb. So what are the differences between the two? When do you use them for a start? I work, you use when you're talking about things that are generally true. They're true all the time, right? So you can say, I work. Now this is true, I work, right? You also use them for something that is permanent. Now, my work is permanent. I permanently work all the time. I shall be working today. I shall be working tomorrow. I shall be working next month and the month after. In the foreseeable future, I shall be working. So this is permanent, right? Now, I don't use this tense for something that's happening right now. So I don't talk about the fact that I'm working now in the present simple. We do that when we get into present continuous. So we talk about the now, what we're doing now. I'm working, it's now, I am working. We also talk about things that are temporary. Now, my working is temporary. I work, and that is permanent, but my working, which I'm doing now, is temporary. Because in a little while, I shall stop working and I shall have something to eat, and then I shall spend the evening with my family. In that case, my work is temporary because it's going to stop. And then it will start again tomorrow. And then it'll stop for lunch and then it will start. So I shall be stopping and starting. Work, it's not permanent and continuous. It's temporary, right? So we've got I work, present simple tense. It's got everything. This is a sentence and it's got everything that a sentence needs. It's got a subject and it's got an action. So it's got a verb. The verb is providing the action. But we can change the pronoun, the subject, and change it to you work or we work or they work, but we keep the verb the same, because the verb, when you use you, I, you, we and they all use the same verb form. If you're not sure about verb forms, check out a video at the top of the screen, because this is going to talk about pronouns and the way that they change. So check out that video at the top of the screen. If we use he, she or it, then we need to change the form of the verb. We need to add an S. Some verbs, they need ES, but this, we need to add an S. He works, she works, it works. The subject and the verb must match. It's important that the subject and the verb match for this present simple tense. So, the present simple tense is used to talk about things that are permanent. We've already mentioned that. We mentioned that a bit earlier. Or that they're generally true. So they're either permanent or they're generally true. So you can talk about where you live. You can talk about your job, because these are going to be permanent or generally true. So you can say, I live in London. If that's where you live, well then that's generally true. It's where you live. And you're likely to live there for the foreseeable future, so it's going to be permanent. If you know that you're not going to be there for very long, then you cannot talk about it in the present simple. You talk about it in the present continuous, because it's going to change. But that's another story. We're talking about the present simple here. So you can talk about, I live in London. You could say, I live in the UK. You can say, I live in a terraced house, or I live in an apartment. So live in is just the beginning of the sentence. It's just the start of the sentence. You can put on what you need. But to I live is putting the tense into the present simple tense. It's a general truth. The same with your job. You can say, I work as a hospital nurse. I work as a teacher. I work as a dentist, a carpenter. You can put what you want at the end, but I work is the present simple tense that we're talking about. Another thing that's true, this is permanent, it's generally true. The sun rises in the east. Right, so I'm pointing over there because that's where the east is from where I am sitting, the east. The sun rises in the east, right? Now the sun is the subject of the sentence, and to rise is the verb, but rises is the correct form for the sun, because the sun is basically it. So it rises, the sun rises, and it rises in the east. Now, we also use the present simple. It's used to talk about routines, things that you do regularly, or things that happen regularly and often. Things like, well, I wake up at 6 a.m. every morning. It could be a routine. It could be a routine because you set your alarm clock, or it could be your body clock that wakes you up at 6 a.m. every morning. But it is a routine. We can always say, you, putting in different subject here, you catch the bus at 6:45 a.m. every day. You do it every day. It's a routine. You might get a newspaper on the way to the bus stop. You do it every day, so it is a routine. And you talk about that in the present simple tense. She goes to the gym on Tuesdays. She, different pronoun. Goes. Goes is the form of the verb go, to go, that matches the pronoun she. So she goes to the gym. Notice the verb and the pronoun must match. I can't say this too often, but they must match. So we talk about schedules as well in the present simple tense. Now, a schedule is very similar to what we've just been talking about, a routine. Only a schedule is something that is planned. A routine is something that can happen, or it maybe doesn't happen. But something that's scheduled is planned, and it's going to happen irrespective. Like the flight times. Flight times are scheduled, and we talk about them in the present simple tense. The plane departs at 6:45 a.m. Now, this plane is going to depart whether you're on it or not. If you miss the plane, you've missed the plane because it's going at this time. So we talk about schedules in this way in the present simple tense. Same with school timetables. Your school timetables, your English classes, for instance, start at 9:45 every morning, every Tuesday, every whenever, but they start at the same time. They are scheduled to start at this particular time. So English classes start at 9:45. It's at the basic. But remember, again here, the English class starts, the plane departs, the verb matches the subject of the sentence. They must match. Now, we also talk about positive statements in the present simple tense. We talk about positive things like I work. I do work. I do. I work. So it is a positive statement. We can say he works. He works. Again, it's a positive statement. And for I, you, we and they, we use the verb to work. For he, she and it, we use the verb works. We change it to works. We add that S. That S is coming in again. We use it for negative statements as well. That was positive statements where yes, I do, or yes, he does, yes, it will happen, and all that sort of stuff. It's positive. Now we get into negative statements. I do not work. Now, negative statements are a little bit different because we need to add a helping verb. The helping verb in this case is do, right? I do. That has to go in. And we also need a negative adverb. This adverb modifies the main verb, work, and changes it into not work. So instead of it being work, it's not work. But you need the helping verb do that's in there. Now, do not is one of these words that we don't often say do not, but we will write do not. We usually write do not as do not, right? Unless you're writing an email. But if you're writing an email, you'll put don't. When you're speaking, we usually say don't. I don't work. I don't. Now, I don't is a contraction of do not, and it's made by removing the O. You get rid of the O and you add an apostrophe, or you replace it with an apostrophe. That's apostrophe is that little curly mark at the top that we see there. It's called an apostrophe. Apostrophe. So here we would say it's got an apostrophe T. We refer to it as an apostrophe T. And then we bring the two together, so we've got don't, D-O-N apostrophe T, don't, right? It means do not. But it's easier to say when you're speaking, and you're getting your flow. Do not is a bit longer. It's more syllables to speak. So we say don't. It's a lot easier. It is a lot easier. It might be difficult at first, right at the beginning. It might be difficult to say don't, but when you practice and you get used to it, you will get it easily. Don't, right? So don't, it goes into the sentence as just where do not goes, only you put don't. So I don't work. I don't work. Now this can be the start of a sentence. So you can say I don't work weekends. I say I don't work at the supermarket. I don't work on Friday nights. Whatever, you can add all this I don't work or I work at just the beginning. There can be sentences in their own, but generally they're just the beginning and you add something to them, but they're all putting your sentence into the present simple. Moving on, but we use the present simple to ask a question. But we need, again, a helping verb. We need to put in a helping verb, and that is do. Because do makes it a question. Do I work? You can say, do I work? Now, if you're writing this down on paper, no matter whether it's on paper or on email, you also need to add a question mark. Right, that needs to be in written. You don't obviously say question mark when you're talking. You just ask the question. But if you're writing, you need to add a question mark as well. And writing is important. It's your exams, your SELT exams. They're all speaking, just speaking. But your learning in general. You need to be writing things down in your notebook. Make notes and put things in your notebook. I've got my notebook here, and you need to be writing and reading and the whole communication thing. So you've got speaking and listening and writing and reading at the same time. So back to questions and the present simple tense. Obviously, when we change the pronoun from I, you, we and they, if we change it to he, she and it, we need to change this auxiliary verb as well, right? The auxiliary verb goes into does, right? Not do, but does he, does she, does it. Do for the I, you, we and they, but does for he, she and it. Now, the auxiliary verb changes. The main verb doesn't. The main verb stays exactly as it is when you're asking a question. You don't change the main verb. So it goes, does he work? For I, you, we and they, the helper verb is do. For he, she and it, the helper verb is does. We can add other question words to the front of that. So we would say, when do I work? When do I work? So we've got a double question word at the beginning here. We've still got the question mark at the end if you're writing it, but speaking it, you say, when do I work? You go for a job and a man says, I want you to come in on Tuesday, and say, well, when do I work then? And he says, I want you to come in on Tuesday. So that way. Or if it's for a he and does, you say, where does he work? If you want to know where somebody works, say, well, where does he work? You just ask the question right at the front. But make sure the helper verb is the correct verb to use for the subject of your sentence. The subject and the auxiliary verb must match, but the main verb doesn't change. So write it in your book. The subject and the auxiliary verb must match, but the main verb doesn't change. It stays as it is, and that's it. So let's finish by doing a review of what we've learned so far. To summarise, tenses, they are ways that we talk about time, the present, the past and the future. We use the simple present tense to talk about facts that are true right now at the present time. We talk about it to talk about routines. We use it to talk about schedules, when the bus is coming, when the plane's going, when the lessons start, all this. And we use it to ask questions. We don't use it to talk about what we're doing now. Right now, this minute, we don't use it for that. We do use it for talking about positive and negative statements, and we must get the subject and the verb matching. They're matching forms. The subject and the verb must match. So I hope that you've got some benefit from this video and that it's helped you understand the present simple tense. So where do you go from here? Well, I suggest that you practice, right, as much as you possibly can. Write down all the statements. Practice writing down, I work at such and such. I eat such and such for dinner. I eat or I ate so and so for breakfast this morning. Write things down. Write them down in the comments below this video, and I'll check them and have a look and see what you put in. Make sure that they're right. But write somewhere, anything. Write something. It's good practice. You might not have to write for your exams, but writing is part of helping you learn. So write as much as you can. And don't forget to subscribe to make sure that you get to know when we release more tips, tricks, help and information with our videos, so that you don't miss out when we do. So until the next time, I'd just like to say thank you very much for watching. It's really do appreciate this. And remember, take care of yourself, look after yourself, and practice. And I'll see you in the next video. So bye.